Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is Tuesday, and normally only a couple of days behind when I put these out, so dates are fairly irrelevant, but it's the 30th of September, and we are getting hot. So it is 30-something degrees today. Nights are still cold enough to need a blanket and to close up the house of an evening. But days are getting very warm. So in these summer months, we do a bunch of different things for cooling down purposes. We have an above ground pool that needs to be sorted now. So it has to be cleaned from last. We were going to try and keep it topped up and clean and chlorinated for the whole winter, but we never managed to do it because it's just too much work because of evaporation. We still have to put fresh water in it, still have to put fresh chlorine, and it doesn't work. We do have the vacuum that we got gifted that is rechargeable, which is awesome. I'll put the link, the name of it, picture up. I can't think of it off the top of my head. We got given that last year, so that does make it a little bit easier, but it's still a challenge to keep it going in winter when nobody's using the pool. So we let it slide. It needs a shock and a clean and to be topped up and all that sort of thing. So we will do that for this summer. But the other things that we do is we have an ice machine normally, except that the ice machine, we tried to get it started up because the weather was warmer and the pump's gone in it. But I only bought it in the beginning of the year, so it was under warranty. So we got a credit for that, and I've ordered another one. So we will have that. And then we have the Ninja Creami. So the plan is to do a whole lot of Ninja Creami tubs, and I bought a whole bunch extra spare ones so that I can do a really big run of them at once and then have them for a week or two. I find that easier than trying to do them every few days because I just don't get to it. I just know I don't. I'm better off spending an hour or two making a big batch and throwing them in the freezer, and they last in the freezer for a couple of weeks before it's an issue. Like, it's really, my kids are so not fussy too, it helps. So that's what we're going to do, but we're going to do that tomorrow morning, get started early tomorrow morning because I want to cook a bunch of custards and stuff too for the ice cream bases. We make some that aren't cooked and some that are. We've got an abundance of eggs at the moment, so we're going to do some cooked ones. The other thing I do is smoothie pops. So we have these silicone smoothie molds that I bought off Amazon. I will put the link to these in the description. I have 6 of these, and a jug in the Thermomix will fill 2 of these. So I tend to do 3 jugs worth of smoothie, a little bit extra for the kids when I'm making them, and fill 6 of these at a time. Now, the capacity of each of these cavities is around about the 90 ml mark, I believe. So these are basically a free-for-all. So the Ninja Creami is basically a once-a-day thing. It's normally it's a little bit more sweetened, it's a little bit more, ice cream, though some of them are more fruit sorbet and stuff, things like that. But generally speaking, it's more of an ice cream. I tend to buy little ice cream cones, or I make them. Every year I make some ice cream cones. I don't make them all the time because they're fiddly, but man, it's nice to have homemade wafer cones every now and again. But I normally buy just little party cones. I think it's the Coles ones that have no preservatives and stuff in them, so I tend to just buy those. And they can have the Ninja Creami mostly after dinner. It's mostly a dessert thing, and they just have a little ice cream cone with it. But the smoothie pops are literally smoothies in pop form, and they can pretty much have as many as they want. Multiple in a day. It really doesn't worry me, because if they were making a jug of smoothie, they would go through a whole jug of smoothie between all of them in one sitting. And a whole jug of smoothie fills 2 of these. So even if they're going through 2 of these between all of them in a day, it's not that big a deal. I would prefer they didn't, only because then they last longer. And I may get some more molds so that I can make, because that's the whole thing though, is if they go through 2 in a day, this is only 3 days worth of smoothies. They rarely go through 2 whole ones in a day, but they are allowed to have 2 or 3 a day. 2 of these smoothie pops. It doesn't really worry me. I don't limit them. It's one of those things that they ask for, and I don't generally hesitate to say yes, feel free, like carrots and apples and things like that. So to make them worthwhile though, I do like to make them in bulk because it just makes my life easier to spend an hour making something in bulk, getting it in the freezer and knowing that it's going to last for a few days to a week than it is to make them every couple of days. It just works better for me. It may not work for others, but it does for me. So I may end up grabbing a couple more of these molds. We'll see. So I make the smoothies in my Thermomix and I make them in a myriad of ways, but generally following us, this similar sort of thing. So it is 4 o'clock nearly today before I have managed to get away from the computer. And this is the task for the afternoon before I start dinner. And then I will bring you back tomorrow when I do the Ninja Creamies and stuff. And then I will bring you back the next day when we whip some up to show you. I have been slack with giving you showing you them whipped up because I know a lot of people make the Ninja Creamy and then they whip them all up for show, for the video, and no. And then because I make such a big batch, I can't show them all in the same video. But what I might try and do is we will do a couple of them over a few days because this video doesn't need to go out until next week. So that way I've got a few days following making them all up to show you all a few of the different sorts. We might make some mix-ins and stuff too. One of the kids' absolute favorite ice creams over summer is basil ice cream, but obviously I don't have enough basil yet to do that, but that'll be something I'll show you later on in the summer too, because basil ice cream is amazing, absolutely amazing. But I need fresh basil for it, so I make like a basil sugar base for it, so it's really good. So anyway, we're going to do smoothies today. So as I said, I use my Thermomix. Now my TM7 is in the back there because the bowl got broken. So I cannot use it at the moment. I have to use the Old Faithful 6 and that's fine. It's a bit sad because when I'm making the custards tomorrow, it would have been nice to have gone between the two of them while one cooled and made the next one. But anyway, we'll just have to stick with my Old Faithful 6. And one of these jugs at max level will fill 2 of these cavities. So that's the plan, 3 jugs worth. Now, I do a similar sort of a thing every time. I have a container of fruit that I've just pulled out of the freezer. We have these big cubes. This is a mango strawberry mix from what I remember, all pureed up and frozen in big blocks. So we've got one of those for each of the mixes, and then we've got, this one appears to be some strawberries and raspberries mixed together. There's some whole strawberries. I've got a bunch of grapes as well, frozen grapes, and of course the bananas, because you need bananas for the texture and the sweetness. So we've got sort of 2 or 3 bananas per jug, plus some grapes, some strawberries, a bit of that mango, and there's even some peach pieces and stuff in here as well. So I'm just throwing in a bunch of frozen fruit that I have kept. All right, and then what I add is some coconut cream. So I've opened a goon bag of the bulk coconut cream to put some of that in, and I normally put around about the 400 mils, which is the equivalent of a jar, of a tin of coconut cream in each one. I did water this down a little bit. The coconut cream was really thick. Then we tend to use some juice. Now, I have used water instead of juice, and that's fine, but juice does it. Once things are frozen, they're not as sweet. It's one of those things. So things have to be a little bit overly sweet before they're frozen to make sure that they're sweet enough once they're frozen. So we buy apple juice for a child that has to use it to take some medicine. So I always have some in the house anyway. It's not like I'm buying it specifically for this. And then all I do is I put, say, 200, that was 300, I wasn't really looking, in there as well. I also have some cherries that I'm trying to use up so I can use the jars. So I'm going to put a splash of juice and some of the solids. So a couple of scoops of cherries in each one as well. I am going to do one that is chocolate toned, but I won't do that first because we're going to make them consecutively in the jug. I do add some chia seeds. So we're just going to add sort of 25 odd grams of chia seeds, a tablespoon and a half maybe, into that. I don't like to add too much because it does create a little bit of a texture issue for one of the kids. So we don't like to add too much to it. So we've got some chia seeds in there. Then we add some protein powder. Completely optional, but I use this almond protein powder from Macro Mike's, who say all the time. I did approach them for sponsorship, but apparently I wasn't in their niche, so that's fine. I still buy it. I just only buy it on like the Black Friday sales and stuff. So this one is banana cream pie, almond protein, 23 grams of protein per serve. The reason I use this particular one is because it's dairy free, but the texture is really good for a dairy free one. A lot of vegan style protein powders, the texture of them is really, really off. So we use the almond and the peanut based ones, and they just work really well for us. But they also have some really nice flavors. So like this is banana cream pie. I've got a white berry cheesecake one there and a chocolate based one that I was going to use for one of the chocolate ones. And we just really like the flavors. They've got sweeteners in them, but it's not excessive, and it just works for us. So now all I'm going to do is top it up with water to the max fill line. Now we don't want to use too much coconut cream, too much juice. The coconut cream just makes it too rich, and it just doesn't work very well in the molds. And obviously the juice is sugar, and as much as we're adding fruit and juice and all the rest of it, at the same time it's just not necessary to add that bit of extra sugar or fat. So we can just add water and it will work perfectly fine. Of course, all of this is purely the way I do it, and the way that works for us, and the way that we've found best for texture and everything like that. It's just our choice. So then we're just going to put a lid on and we're going to blend it. Now that big brick in there is fine in the Thermomix. Obviously, if you have a less powerful blender, you're not going to want to use great big chunks, but for ours it's fine. I just need to find a lid. All right, so we mix it for a minute because I want it nice and smooth, and then we just pour it into these molds. Now it's not too thick, not too thin. It makes it easy to get it into the molds. I found that if I let it like be as thick as I would normally make it for a smoothie, it just made getting it evenly into the molds too difficult. So that's why adding that bit of water and stuff is beneficial as well. We're just getting the ratio of fats as well as sweetness and texture right for what works for this. And this is just trial and error for doing this in bulk many dozen times over each summer. So we're just going to get this all filled, and then Kavik might grab the sticks out for me since he just walked out here. And then we just place the lids on and the sticks go through the holes. Now these are the Kuving sticks, which are a little bit shorter than your average popsicle stick. So you don't want to push them all the way in, but getting them up to like so that end mark works. All right, so the only thing with these to be aware of is that once they're full, they're a little, especially if the liquid isn't super thick, they're a little difficult to pick up and move. So I put them on a board because that way I just take the whole board over to the freezer to put them in the freezer to get ready, and then I will just do the next jug and the next lot of 2. And we just repeat the process. But this one I'm going to do the white berry cheesecake flavored protein powder, and then the last one I'll do chocolate. So I'll just bring you back as I fill each set and show you what I do there. But same general process. All right, the chocolatey one, I actually ended up adding some of the homemade hot chocolate powder as well. We're not using that as much now that it's warmed up anyway, just to bump the chocolate. It looks like I've missed a piece of banana. Kavik might want to have that bit. So we've actually misplaced one of the lids. Can't find it. So I made this just a little bit thicker in the hopes of being able to just proper stick up in one of the molds. If it ends up wonky, it ends up wonky. They can always put it in a bowl to eat it if that's what it takes. So all right, so the sticks are standing up. They may not stay that way, but it doesn't really matter. They'll the kids will eat it regardless. And these ones will need to be eaten first because they do get a little bit freeze burn if they don't have the lids on them. But hopefully the other lid will turn up. It might be in the freezer, because what I like to do is store these in the freezer when they're empty, because it makes it easier to keep them clean. So it might be tucked in the freezer somewhere, we'll see. So I'm going to get these in the freezer, and then that's done. That's it for the smoothie pops. So I will bring you back tomorrow when I do the Ninja Creamies. All right, editing me coming in to say that the next section of footage was when the mic got damaged. So obviously it went downhill gradually over a span of a few days. So this day there is still sound, but I've had to bump it right up. It's not great quality. So what I'm going to do is leave the sound on there, but I will figure out how to put some subtitles on there as well for this section. So there is speech sound, but it's not great. Hey everyone, so it's Saturday and we've got the ongoing video for the Ninja Creamy stuff, except I got waylaid because I made, I don't know, 60 odd mini loaf tin cakes for a neighbour who was having a party, but I wanted to hold off on the Ninja Creamy stuff because I've got the egg yolks from the Swiss meringue buttercream that I made. I have the egg yolks left, so I'm going to make some of the custards up for that. So I'm not going to do all of the Ninja Creamies today. It'll end up being split between another couple of days, but that's fine because this video won't come out until next week anyway. So we're just going to do what we've got now. I'm going to make the custard ones up with the egg yolks to start with, but we do some that are cooked and some that aren't. So that was the whole idea of doing this video over a whole bunch of the Ninja Creamy flavors and styles that we do. But I'm going to do some cooked stuff initially. So I've got my Thermomix. That's how I make my custards. So I've got my Thermomix, and then do sort of a base recipe depending on what flavors that we want to do. There is a couple of things to do that are different between using like a compressor churn ice cream maker, which we also have, and the Ninja Creamy. You can't do it quite as heavy on the richness in the Ninja Creamy because it spins at such a high rate. When it's spinning, you can almost turn it to butter and it can be kind of greasy and gritty. So you need to reduce that a little bit when you're doing the Ninja Creamy custards versus the like a churning custard. I learned that the hard way because I was making the same recipe that I make for my churn for the Ninja Creamy and it just doesn't work. Now I use my Thermomix because I can throw everything in and it makes a custard for me. So we're going to start off with a chocolate one, I think, because I've got some leftover dark chocolate as well from making all the cakes too. Now I make some of mine on dairy and some not. First up I'm going to make a dairy based one because I've got the cream and stuff out. So the goal is to fill a couple of Ninja Creamy tubs at a time with the custard. So I make a bigger batch in the Thermomix and then split it into different bowls. So I've got 100 grams of dark chocolate here. It's not sugar free, but it's pretty low carb, so it'll be fine. I'm the one who eats most of the ice cream anyway, not Darryl, but it's just the Woolworth 72%, and it's, what is it? It's oh, it's higher than I thought. 24 grams of carbs in this 100 grams, which still isn't that bad because this is going to make a fair amount of ice cream. We're going to add some cream. I have some cream that's been frozen here, so the texture is not going to be superb, but we got it from the hamper and froze it. And we're going to do, what have we got in here? 600. So let's do 300. And then we're going to add water, and we're going to bring that up to 750 odd. Of course, you could add milk here instead. You could use almond milk, you could use more cream, whatever you want. But I find that by watering this down, we're basically turning it to milk. It's just low carb milk. We're going to put some egg yolks in. And I have 4 big egg yolks here. I think a couple of these are turkey egg yolks. They were from yesterday and they were kept in the fridge and covered. Now you could do up to 6 or 8 egg yolks in this if you were doing it on churn. 4 is plenty for this purpose. We're going to add some allulose so that we keep this lower carb, so that if Darryl wishes to have some, he can. And we're going to use about 100 grams. It's a hard one. Ice cream just doesn't taste right if it's not sweet. So you sort of have to make it sweet enough. And sometimes that feels like you're using more than you really need. But we're going to add a little bit of cocoa to this as well to bump that chocolate flavour. About 25-30 grams. Going to grab a pinch of salt and some vanilla. Generous amount of vanilla. Then we're just going to turn it on. So basically, then we just cook a custard, and we just put it on about 8 minutes. We'll start with at 90 on speed 3, and then we will just let it go. I was supposed to grate that chocolate and I forgot. So I'm just going to turn the speed down until that chocolate melts a little bit. Normally I would grate it. I got sidetracked. I would put the chunks of chocolate in there, grate it to a fine grind, and then start it up. But, you know, it'll still work. I don't strain any of these custards or anything for the ice cream because they're going to be mixed anyway. So it works out all right, even if there's a few lumps or anything like that, because it's going to be blended in the Ninja Creami anyway. So we'll just let this go. Actually, because I have a second bowl, and this shouldn't be too loud, I'm going to mix up the next batch while this is cooking, and then I can just swap the jugs over. So that's one of the beauties of having another bowl. I'm going to do a plain vanilla for the kids because I bought them Oreos half price, and I've stopped them from eating them. I've told them they weren't allowed to eat them because I wanted them to be able to have cookies and cream ice cream. So I've got some of the Goon Bag coconut cream in here, and I've watered it down so that because it had been in the fridge, so it was very thick, and it still might be a little bit lumpy, but it's, yeah, you got a few chunks of cold cream in there because I just used cold water to blend it. If I really wanted it smooth, I would have had to use hot water. But I'm going to put 900 grams of this. I'm going to put 120 grams of just raw sugar, a pinch of salt, a good sort of 20 or 30 grams of vanilla, really heavy on the vanilla there. And I buy the alcohol-based vanilla too, which helps it to stop from setting up too hard as well. But because we're using egg yolks, that helps as well. And then I've got what I think is 7 or 8 egg yolks from the icing. Probably don't need to put all of them in there. Can probably do, that's 2, 3 and a bit, 4. Just not sure how much is in here. If there's too much egg yolk in it, we find that when you blend it, it just ends up being soft serve. It ends up being like a thick shake rather than an ice cream that you can scoop. So it just doesn't work. And that's all I'm going to do, just a plain vanilla one for that one there. And then I will cook this exactly the same. Now that chocolate has melted, I'm going to turn that up to a 3, and once that's done, I'm going to put this one on, and I'll probably pour that out, and I might even rinse it and get another one done before I start dinner, and then we'll come back to this tomorrow or Monday. Alright, so this one's gone for the 8 minutes. As I said before, because it's going to be blended by the Creami, it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly custard, and it doesn't matter if it hasn't thickened very much. It will thicken as it sits. All we want is that those egg yolks have been tempered and cooked through. So we've just got a very thin chocolate custard. You can add a tiny bit of xanthan gum to help with the iciness. So xanthan gum is a stabilizer, and it stops the ice crystals forming as large. We always use it in our non-cooked ones. The cooked ones, it's not as big an issue, but because we reduced the fat and the egg yolks a little bit, it might be worth doing. So all I'm doing, it's about like 1/8 of a teaspoon. It's like a really scant 1/4 of a teaspoon, and I'm just going to sprinkle it over the surface and give it a quick spin. using the pudding mix in the non-cooked ones has a similar sort of effect. They normally have gums and stuff in them, and that helps to give that stabilization and the smaller ice crystals in it as well. If you make a non-cooked creamy with pudding mix versus without, there's a significant difference in it. So then all I'm going to do, so as long as you've got it up over the 76 Celsius is going to temper your eggs to the right temperature to be edible and stuff, if you're worried about your eggs in there. And then all I do is I pour it into the Creami containers. Now this one is a dairy based one, so this one is mine and Darryl's. Darryl's not a big ice cream eater. He does eat it sometimes and not other times. It's hit and miss, and I don't need an entire pint to myself. And these are the deluxe pints, so they're quite large. And I do find that it's a lot better to eat freshly spun than put back in the freezer and spun again. So I tend to split that batch between 3 different pints, which is still a decent amount per pint, sort of a scant half of a deluxe pint. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to put lids on them, and I'm going to put these aside to cool a bit before they go in the freezer, so they don't heat everything else up in my freezer. I'm going to put the vanilla one on. I can't find a second lid for some reason, so I'm going to rinse this one so we don't put chocolate in it. But then I might make a chocolate batch up for the kids as well while I've got this chocolate one dirty. That little bit of cross contamination of dairy I'm not concerned with, because we're using dairy chocolate anyway, but I've got those extra egg yolks. So I'm going to wash this, put this one on for the 9 minutes, and then I'll bring it back. Same concept again, dirty bowl here. So we're just going to do the chocolate one, use up the rest of these egg yolks. I probably will make a couple more cooked custards because the kids love choc mint. So I probably will do a mint base one, which is always nice in a custard base, and then I'll grate some chocolate up, and or they can use choc chips or whatever, and when they mix it they can mix in the choc chips. But we'll do this as a chocolate one first. So I've just blended their coconut cream again down. So we want 750 grams normal sugar, a little bit of cocoa, and a little bit of vanilla. And that should fill 2 pints for them as well. So most of these recipes, I can't remember whether vanilla does 3 maybe. The chocolate I'm pretty sure does 2 or 3, sort of not full. So we'll see what the vanilla one does. We've got chocolate to go on after that. Once all the pints are full, I'll bring it back. Alright, so we got the chocolate and the vanilla there, and this is the kids' chocolate as well. And then I will stop for tonight so I can make some dinner. Now, I must say, I love the Ninja Creami, I really do. I have a compressor ice cream machine, and it makes fantastic ice cream, but it made ice cream such a chore and a very much an every now and again thing, whereas this allows us to do it regularly and to do it. So these are, a rich, a fairly fatty, fairly heavy in sugar, sort of a mix, but when we use the protein powders and things like that, they're a lot healthier, or we use fruit-based ones and things like that, and it's made a lot more accessible. But Ninja Creami, they have these little lugs in the bottom, which is what sits in the jug that goes into the machine, but they're indented on the inside too. They're so hard to clean, especially they're not really that hard to clean, but my children do dishes and they find them very hard to clean. It would have been nice if it was flat on the inside and just had the nubs on the outside, but anyway. I'm going on notes from last year, but it looks like my notes are slightly off because normally I have just the right amount to fill 2 or that partially fill 3. But I'm going to have to check in case I've written it down somewhere else as well, and I've made notes on my notes, because I like to make the kids' batches that fill to the fill line on 2, and the dairy batches that fill a little bit less than this, probably about 1/3 rather than closer to 1/2. But this can be filled all the way to this line here as a max fill. And when the 5 kids are sharing it, it's always nice to have a max bill. Now, I might just top this up with coconut milk and mix it through because it's going to be blended anyway. And I think that would be fine just to bump the quantity up so that it's a bit more for them. It's not really that much of an issue, but you know. So that's the chocolate done anyway. So we've got all the chocolate, the vanilla, all those egg yolks that I needed to use are used, and that was my main purpose for doing them this afternoon. But now I need to cook dinner, so I'll bring you back when I come back to doing it. All right, so we did the smoothie pops, we did the cooked custard creamies. The other thing that we do is a no-cook creamy. I tend to use the Jello pudding mixes. We do the sugar-free ones. They aren't necessary, but they do create just such a more pleasant texture. Xanthan gum does a similar sort of a thing. It's to do with the modified cornstarches and stuff that are in these that make that work. But I have just put an order in for some more of these because I wanted some sugar-free drink powders as well. So I've done that all at the same time, but we've got some left, so we're going to use these. I also bought these half price a couple of months ago now and just haven't got around to trying them. So there's a caramelized banana, a bubblegum and a chocolate flavored one that I'm going to have a go at trying some things with. And we're just going to figure it out. I've got a half-gallon jar of coconut cream here, so I'm just going to spread that out over as many as I can get. I normally only put around about 200 to 300 grams of the coconut cream in, and the rest is water, because as I've said previously, if you've got too much fat in them, because of the speed that the Ninja Creami spins the ice cream, it gets greasy. It goes to like a butter kind of a texture. So you actually want to reduce that a little bit and then thicken it up with the other things like the Jello pudding and stuff. So all I tend to do is I put my creamy tubs on the scales and I weigh in some cream. Now I've just topped this cream jar up and I didn't water it down because we're going to water it down in the creamy tubs, so I might take the pouring lid off because it's been refrigerated, so the texture might not be super appealing to look at. But let's start with, say, 250. I do have one more of the goon bags, I think, left at the moment, but I don't really want to open it today. I'm just going to make what I've got left here. All right, and I've just topped the jar up with water so we'll get all of that creamy, milky goodness out of it as well. So we can do some flavors. Now, the kids requested pistachio again. Scratch that. Apparently the kids have eaten all the pistachio spread on its own, so they can't have pistachio. We can do a chocolate fudge one. We've got the chocolate fudge Jello mix, which we use about the 7 gram mark of. We're going to try this new chocolate syrup. Now it says 1 serving is 20 mils to 180 mils of milk. So we might do 40 in this to bump that chocolate flavor. Ended up being about 45. We will add a tiny bit of xanthan gum. As I said, it helps with texture. The Jello mix helps as well, but this doesn't hurt to put, like, you're talking an 1/8 to a 1/16 of a teaspoon, just the tiniest little bit in there. And then we're going to add a chocolate based protein powder as well. This one is chocolate caramel. Again, there's sweeteners in this which help to sweeten the ice cream. There's also some thickening agents which helps with texture, and it just bulks it up. We're just using A lot of people make these ice creams low calorie, high protein, things like that, so it makes them, you know, it makes it a treat for someone who's not having any of that sort of stuff. It's less that of an issue and more just getting a nice texture, flavored, sweet sort of a mix without mixing it, without cooking it. And this is one of the ways to do that, when you're bypassing the eggs and the custard cooking, by adding the protein powders, by adding the jello mixes, things like that, you get a good texture, flavor, simple sort of a thing. So we've got chocolate there. So that one is going to be blended, and then we'll add water and stuff to that one as well. What else have we got here? We've got some white chocolate in the jello mix. So again, we'll go for the 7 grams of that. We might try the bubblegum though. I don't know that we'd have a protein powder that would go with a bubblegum flavour. So maybe if we do a bubblegum flavoured one, we're just going to leave that out. The white chocolate bubblegum flavouring, we're just going to have to test the theory as to whether that's enough to make it work or not. Again, this says 20 mils per 180 mils. This ends up about 3 times that. We're not adding other flavours, so I might do the 60 mils in this one, because this ends up being 600 to 700 mils of liquid all up. So we'll do that, and then we'll put our tiny bit of xanthan gum in there as well, and we might just leave that and see how that goes. That's going to be a test run on that one. We do have a caramelized banana flavored one too, so I reckon there's a banana cream pie protein powder, which I reckon will work really well with this one. So we're going to go that. We're just going to run, oh, I can't get it open. So we'll just do the 40 of this one, because we're going to add that protein powder as well, which also has sweeteners and flavouring with it. We might do just a vanilla pudding. Oops, it's already open. So just the 7 grams of that, and just a scoop of the banana cream pie one. I'm spilling stuff everywhere. So tiny little sprinkle of that. And we're going to leave that one. All right, so we've got banana, bubblegum, and chocolate to start with. Now, let's go one of our berry flavoured ones. So we will do just a vanilla pudding. 7 grams of that. We've got some freeze-dried strawberry powder. So we will do sort of 10-ish grams of that, 10 or 12 grams of that, as well as the berry cheesecake, white chocolate berry cheesecake protein powder, because that's a really nice flavour. Our little tiny sprinkle, and the mixed berry white chocolate cheesecake, that flavour is, which is a really nice flavour. So we've got a berry one there as well. Now, how about we do a peanut butter chocolate one. We have some peanut butter chocolate pudding mix in the Macro Mike range that was on clearance, so we might use that for this one instead of pudding, and I might add a little bit of the chocolate mix to just boost that flavour. So we've got the choc peanut truffle fudge protein pudding mix. So we'll put a scoop of that in, and we'll put a little bit of the chocolate syrup, just like that, and then our little tiny pinch of xanthan gum. What have we got left? We have this one. Let's have a think. I did get a mango one as well, but I don't know that I would put that with, I suppose mangoes and cream. I might have like a vanilla buttercream or something protein powder, which might work. I don't know if I've got any left. But this was the other flavour. smells wonderful. I got a creamy vanilla of the protein pudding mix, so that might work. We just sort of got a mangoes and cream flavour that way. So I think that'll work. And then one of the other flavours that the kids always love is choc mint. So maybe I will do the end of this chocolate pudding with some mint essence. Now I do make cooked custard choc mint ice cream like I do the basil ice cream, but again I don't have quite enough mint yet. It is taking off, but it's not quite enough to harvest sort of a cup worth to make a sugar base for the ice cream yet, but you will get plenty of ice cream over summer. We just won't have featured videos of only ice cream. I just thought that this might be a nice way to show everything all in one, because a lot of the times I have these videos with lots of bits and pieces in them and no one can find exactly what they're looking for. So this way there is the option to look at just ice cream. Now we don't want too much of this. Two grams went into that one, and we might put 20 of this in here as well, just to boost that chocolate. All right, so that is done. So now we have to mix them. So all I tend to do is I top them all up. So we're going to spread this out between them. We're going to have a rainbow of colours, I reckon, and I will get a bit more. We don't want it all the way full because you create some volume when you mix it. So I want to put a little bit more liquid, then we'll blend them with the immersion blender, and then we'll top them up as needed. All right, so we're not overly fussy about cross-contamination of flavours here, but I will do like all the lighter coloured and then the darker coloured, but I do have a container of water here to sort of wash it in between. So all we do is blend it up really well, get all the lumps out. Of course it's going to be blended again, but you still want to blend it really well because you want to blend those emulsifiers through so that it's spread evenly throughout it. So give it a really good blend. All right, so we've got our paler coloured ones done, and then we'll do our chocolate based ones. Again, there'll be a little bit of cross-contamination of flavour, but we're really not that concerned. All right, and then I'm just going to top them all up to the fill line and give them a quick stir as well. Now, a lot of people are topping up here with like almond milk, or I could top up with rice milk or something, but honestly, almond milk and rice milk are 93% water anyway. So all we're doing is taking the liquid levels up to appropriate, and we've used that heavy coconut cream as the base, so it doesn't need the extra. So they're all at max fill. I'm going to give them a quick whiz, and then we're going to get lids on them. Alrighty, now I've made all the mess, but we have a week's worth of creamies. So that is the idea, is that by doing 7 of them, they have one a day, and they have the smoothie pops. Mind you, the delay in getting this done means that they've actually run out of smoothie pops. So I need to do that because it is the 8th today. That's how long I've had issues with sound and been recording this video across. So, you know. But these 7 can now go into the freezer, and kind of wanted to put this video out in the morning, but if I do that I can't show you one of these, so it'll probably be Friday morning that I'll put this video out. I will blend up one of the cooked custard ones tonight on video for you, and then blend one of these up tomorrow after the 24 hours, and then put the video out Friday morning. I think that's how I'll make it work. So yeah, so that is the way we do the non-cook Ninja Creamies. There is lots of different methods, different recipes. There's whole Facebook groups to them, and people use different things by choice for different reasons. Now I have the sugar-free jello because it meant that when we were doing keto carnivore it was low carb, and it worked well that if Darryl wants to eat it, then it is low carb still. I obviously am not sticking to the low carb diet completely anymore, so it's less relevant, and it's less relevant for the kids, especially when I'm adding other stuff to it as well. But it's not going to hurt either. And I just buy it from Passion for Sugar Free. So I just go and I just bought half a dozen of them, and it lasts us a long time. And I buy the sugar-free drink mixes as well from them too. So using the sugar-free, it just works well for us. I could buy there's a Cotties vanilla. They don't have any flavors, but there's a Cotties vanilla pudding that's not sugar-free that would work in the same way. And I use the protein powder puddings sometimes too. But yeah, it's just a mix of things. And using the protein powder is completely optional. Again, it just helps with texture, it helps with flavor, helps with sweetness, and makes it an easy way to get a flavorful and a variety of flavors in a non-cook method. So anyway, I will bring you back to show you once we mix them, but these are going in the freezer. All right, we got a kid's vanilla. It's been sitting out on the bench for 10 minutes or so. And we're going to, this one is the cooked custard one, so it is an ice cream. So we're going to do it on full and on ice cream. And then once it's done, we've got not quite ice cream, but close. And we're going to stick a hole, and just sort of stick a hole in the middle. And then we've got Oreos. So they've got the marshmallow flavoured Oreos today. So we're doing cookies and cream, and I just break them into half and toss them in the middle here, shove them in, put the lid back on, and we're going to do it as a mix in. So we're going to slot it back in, and we just hit full and mix in. So it's done its mix in cycle, and we have ice cream. You gonna record putting them in the cone? So it's nice and pink, creamy, slightly pink with the marshmallows in, and that's the cooked custard, vanilla, coconut cream with the Oreos mixed through it. Alrighty, so next day I'm giving them an afternoon treat because they've run out of smoothie pops, and this is the bubblegum one. So it's set up, should be firm enough, it should be fine. It's got some ice crystals in it, which is pretty normal when you're not an egg-based one. So we're going to give this one a go. Now we are going to mix this one on light ice cream because it's not egg-based. So we're going to put it in full and light ice cream, which takes around about double the amount of time, and it spins at a different rate than the ice cream one, which is helpful. The plain ice cream one with the eggs and all that, it helps to stop that whole greasy feeling as well. So we're just going to put full in there, and we're going to give it a go. Alrighty, so that's the light spin, and it's not too bad. It's a little bit powdery, but not too bad. So we're going to do a respin on it. And I'm just going to scrape the sides down a little bit. It probably could have been left out a little bit longer. We got overzealous with wanting to make it. So sometimes it definitely needs a respin, sometimes it doesn't. If you leave it out for 15 minutes or you run boiling water over the edges, then it's less likely to need it. But we're going to do a full respin. All right. Respin, and there we go. It's gone to this creamy consistency. It's still a little bit crumbly, but it's doable. Again, I should have just left it out for a little bit longer, but that's how they come up even without the eggs and everything else. This nice sort of a creamy texture. And the kids like to have them in the little fun size cones. Alrighty, that's the creamy. am editing up this video and I have no idea if I've got an outro or anything for it, so I'm just going to film one just in case before I pull the rest of this footage off. So that is the different ways that we do the Ninja Creami ice creams and the smoothies and our summer frozen treats. There is so many recipes out there and so many different ways of doing it that the thing about the Ninja Creami machine and why I think it's a worthwhile investment is that you can creamy just about anything. The cooked custards are an extra step and completely unnecessary, but super tasty. So, you know, you don't have to do any of that. The straight up blended ones are perfectly fine. And if you're that way inclined, you could mix 2 of them up every couple of days and you've got ice cream in your freezer all the time, which would make it much less of a significant job than what I have done with all those pints all at the same time. That's just the way I tend to find it easier to do things. Sometimes I think that I'm punishing myself by doing it in batches like that, but it really is just the way it works. So the kids, they ran out of smoothie pops today, so I let them have the bubblegum flavoured one for afternoon tea. And then they just had the chocolate mint one for dinner. So, you know, they've gone through 2 pints in one day, which isn't a lot of ice cream over 5 kids and isn't a lot of, there's not a whole lot in most of the ice creams. So, you know, there's nothing significantly bad. When it's spread between all those kids, it's a really fun treat for them that has, it's just, I think it's a great investment, the Ninja Creami. I really have enjoyed it. It is one machine that we use. We don't use it much in winter at all, but in summer we use no end. I am looking at the slushy machine, mind you. I think that would be really cool for, especially over, you know, December when the pool's running and things like that. That would be really cool. I saw that Kmart released one, but, you know, getting it would be next to impossible. But there is a few different brands that are cheaper than the Ninja Slushy one, but I'm definitely looking at one of those for Christmas maybe. We will see how the funds stretch. So thank you for putting up with the sound issues. And this video that just dragged out and is all over the place. And this is why I don't do videos that take this sort of span of time to do, because I'm not very good at keeping the footage or collating it. But I wanted to share the way we use, the real life way we use the Ninja Creami and the frozen treats and things like that. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next video. Oh, and it's 8 o'clock and bedtime, hence I'm in my jammies and standing out in the really crappy lighting in the kitchen, but you know, we do what we do. Eventually my patio will be screened off and I'll have some, I'm going to buy those Moroccan fairy lights, totally squirreling here, but I think it would be so nice to be able to just walk out there and do things like this. But anyway, see you next time.